So today's date is 5/24/21, and we're going to do Pythagorean theorem. Finding the leg. So on Thursday, last time I saw you, I taught you how to find the hypotenuse, side C. Today I'm going to teach you how to do side A or B, a leg. Basically, it's pretty simple. Yeah, so we'll start. Again, just a reminder, Pythagorean theorem works for right triangles that look like this, right? This will be a leg A, B, and this one's always C. This one's the one that really matters, the hypotenuse. And I taught you the formula A squared plus B squared equals C squared on Thursday. We're going to use the same formula, but we're going to apply it differently today. All right, so I have my triangle here. Okay, it's a right triangle. Oops. All right, this is 15. This is 12, and this is X. Okay? So in this problem, you realize that I actually give you the hypotenuse. This is actually C, so we're not solving for C. This we can call B or A. So this one means that we're solving for A. A is the unknown value. You're solving for a leg. All right, so the first thing is to substitute into our formula A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I know that A is an unknown value. So you can keep it as A squared if you want. B is 12 squared is equal to C, which is 15 squared. Notice the where I put the numbers now. So now I do know what C is. So now it's a little different than last week. You actually know what C is. Okay, same thing as last week. You're gonna first do the square. So 15 squared is 225. 12 squared is 144 plus A squared, okay? So first step's the same. You just kind of square your numbers, drop them down. Now the second step is completely different than last week. Why? Because we have to solve for A squared. On Thursday, we added, but here, you can't, because there's a number on this side and there's a number on this side, and then your variable. So again, your goal is to get this variable by itself. Well, the first thing we have to do is move this number first. So right now it says plus 144. So what we're going to do is go minus 144 minus 144. So 144 minus 144 gives you 0, which is fantastic. That's what I want. I just want A squared is equal to. Then we're going to subtract this. 5 minus 4 is 1. 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So A squared equals 81. Oh, is that my answer, 81? Nope. There's one final step, which is to take the square root, right? So like we learned on Thursday, when you take the square root of this, you're just left with A. That's the whole point of square root. Square root is to take that little 2 away. Equals. What's the square root of 81? What number multiplied by itself gives you 81? What times what is 81? You should know it's 9. So A, or X, is equal to 9. So here, instead of adding, you're going to be subtracting because the way you set up the numbers. What's the number one mistake kids do? The number one mistake kids do is they'll put the 15 on this side and want to keep solving for C. It's like, no, that was Thursday. Today we're not solving for C. I tell you what C is. You're going to use it to give you the other number. All right? You okay? All right, let's do one more problem. Here's my right triangle. It doesn't matter how it's facing as long as it's a right triangle. The one opposite the 90 degrees will always be your C. The one opposite your 90 degrees will always be your C. The two lines that make up the 90 degrees, the two lines that make up your 90 degrees are always your A and your B. And these two can be interchanged. It doesn't matter how you write it, which one's A, which one's B. All right, so I'm going to say that this is 13 and this is 5. So we have a right triangle with a leg of 5 and a hypotenuse of 13. So we're going to try to find the other leg. So again, you use your formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a is 5 squared, not just 5, but 5 squared, plus, I don't know what b is, so b squared equals c, which is 13 squared. All right, so the first thing you have to do is do the squares. So 5 squared and 13 squared. So 5 squared is 25 plus b squared is equal to 169. Your goal is to get b by itself, right? So first thing you have to do is not get rid of that little 2. Get rid of that 25. So minus 25 minus 25. On this side, you're left with b squared is equal to 169 minus 25 is 144. The more you start doing these, the more like you realize what this number actually equals. If you don't, then just use your calculator. So we're going to take the square root of b squared, which is b, the square root of 144, and feel free to use a calculator. If you don't have this one memorized, just use a calculator. B is equal to 12. So b equals 12. And that's it. Pretty simple. It's pretty simple if you know how to solve equations, right? We've been solving equations in 7th grade for a very, very, very long time now. All right. Eight, 10, x. So how do you want to set this one up? Can you set it up before I can? All right. So first step is substitute your numbers. So is it okay if you put the 8 where the A is? Yes. It is 100% okay to, you can switch these two. The 10 has to be on this side though. 10 has to be on this side. So then we do the square. 8 squared is 64. 10 squared is 100. Awesome. Going to subtract 64 on both sides. You're left with 36 is equal to a squared. And then you take the square root, take the square root. So you're left with a is equal to 36. And that's it. Now, oh, hold on. The chat was being blocked. So how do you know how to set up your equation? Well, so a and b can be changed. You can switch a and b. C is always, 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 always the opposite of this one. The opposite the 90 degrees. So this is always C. This is the one that matters where you place it. If you place it on this side where the A and B is, you'll get the whole thing wrong. As long as C is this number, or it's C, you're solving for it, has to go here. Okay, so this number has to go over here. This doesn't matter. I could have done this. 8 squared plus B squared is equal to 10 squared. So now I'm solving for B using the same numbers. Notice I put the 8 on this side, but the 10 has to be on this side. The 10 has to be on that side. That's the most important one, is your C. Either you're solving for C or I give you C. If I give you C, use it. Or like Thursday, you were solving for it, right? So this is 64 plus B squared equals 100 minus 64 minus 64. B squared is still 36. And then you take the square root, B equals 6. So you end up getting the same number, right? So that's what I mean when like you can change A and B. A and B is cool. You can change it. You'll still get the same answer. If you put C to be A or B, that's where you'll make a mistake. So as long as you put C to be C, I don't know how else to explain it. This line has to be C. The rest is fine. The rest is fine. Okay? So you still get the same answer. Here I'm solving for A. Here I'm solving for B. Here's also how to tell if you're right or wrong. Your C has to be the longest side. Your C will always be the longest side. So when you plug in your numbers, like, okay, this is 8, I got 6. Okay, cool. This is still bigger. We're good. On top, it was 5, 12, 13. Is this still the longest one? Yes, it's 13. It's the longest one. So sometimes students will forget to take the square root, and they'll be like, oh, Miss Amelia, I got 36. My answer's 36. And I'm like, huh? No, 10 has to be the biggest number, but I got 36. Well, did you forget to square root? Oh yeah, I forgot. So just to make sure that you're doing it correctly, this side has to be the longest side. So is your answer smaller than this? Or when you're solving for C, that has to be the biggest side. So this side has to be the biggest. No matter what, C is always the biggest. Are there any questions? Other